Hello, Internet listeners. This is Jacob Seus, and you are listening to New York Sports on the National Sports Spreaker Network. Today, we are going to be talking about an absolute devastating day for New York Met fans everywhere. The day after we found out that ace Matt Harvey will be out for the rest of the season with a UCL tear. Harvey had been feeling discomfort in his elbow and went for an MRI yesterday after his start Sunday against the Philadelphia Phillies. And Harvey stated in his press conference that going into this MRI, he really didn't think much of it. He just had some discomfort and wanted to get it checked out just in case it was something to be worried about. Well, it does turn out that it was something to be worried about. Harvey has a slightly torn UCL. I mean, if you want to look on any bright side, if there is one, look at the fact that it is a slight tear and not a complete tear. And if you want to look on the bad side, look at the fact that Tommy John surgery is an option. The worst two words a pitcher could ever hear is Tommy John. And unfortunately for Matt Harvey, those words have come up in the conversation. Another good thing is, though, it's not 100% that he's going to need surgery. General Manager Sandy Alderson stated yesterday that the Mets are going to let Harvey rest for the next week or two and see if it goes down a little bit, maybe heals a little bit. If that's the case, he won't need surgery and will just rest during the winter and be ready for spring training 2014. But if it doesn't get any better over the next week or so, you could definitely be looking at Tommy John surgery, which is absolutely horrible for Mets fans. It really is. I mean, to see a pitcher with such potential that the Mets have really gotten a lot out of this season, he who has given us a sign that the future is going to be bright, could now possibly be out for all of next season, if not most of it. We've heard a lot of reactions from Met fans all over in the past 24 hours, and they certainly are not happy. They feel that Harvey should have been shut down a while ago, and I can agree with that. I didn't think that the innings limit on Harvey was necessary, but when I hear General Manager Sandy Alderson saying that he had some discomfort for a while, and they let him pitch through it because he said that he was okay with pitching through it, that's not something that I approve. When you have a 24-year-old pitcher putting up stats that he has this season on a non-playoff team, and he's saying to you that he's feeling something in his elbow that he shouldn't be feeling, why are you putting him back on the mound day after day? Again, in a season where the Mets aren't going to make the playoffs, in a season where we saw Matt Harvey and got a glimpse of the future, where I would much rather have Harvey for a full season 2 years from now, throwing the way he is now, than to have him for a full season now on a season where we're 10 games under 500 and don't have a shot in hell to make the playoffs. You know, it's absolutely ridiculous from my standpoint that the Mets weren't more concerned about Harvey's status going throughout the season. I mean, this season, Harvey has thrown the most innings that he has ever thrown in any level of baseball he's played. 178 and a third to be exact. He didn't throw that many for a season when he was in college at North Carolina. He didn't throw that many innings at any point in the season when he was in the Mets farm system. So when you come up to another level of baseball and get thrown in so many more innings than you're used to, how could you not expect this if you're the Mets? I mean, there are a lot of experts saying that this was unavoidable because of the way he throws, and pitching does just have such a strain on you because it is so unnatural. But the Mets needed to take more precaution from day one. And almost if I'm the Mets, having routine checks on Matt Harvey wouldn't be a bad idea. What do you have to lose once a week having Harvey come into the trainer's office and getting work done, couple MRIs maybe, just to make sure everything is all good in him? He is our ace for the future. He is the chosen one on the Mets. The stats he's put up this year have been unheard of from the Mets since Doc Gooden, and this kid is 24 years old. Had a 2.27 ERA, and that ERA is only as high as it is because of his last couple starts where he has been complaining of fatigue. He's 9-5, could easily be in contention for 20 wins if the Mets scored some runs. 191 strikeouts, 0.93 whip, which is the best in the major leagues by a long shot. And this kid is in his first major league season. And now he is on the cusp of Tommy John surgery, and he's on the cusp of being out at least most of the 2015 season, which would really, really suck. If you want to just flat out put it that way, it's going to suck. So what we could be looking at, as I said, Harvey being most out of 2015, that would have Zach Wheeler taking over the ace role, in my opinion. You throw him out there. He has done much better. Exactly, if you look at his start last night, 7 innings, 2 runs. The Mets got the loss, but that's besides the fact because they can't score any runs. But I think Wheeler could take over the load. And then we could be looking at Noah Syndergaard getting the nod from spring training. It was said that Syndergaard wasn't going to come up until around the point that Wheeler came up this season. But with the way Syndergaard has been throwing in the minor leagues, besides his start last night, which he did get absolutely shelled, 9 runs in 3 innings, he has been dominating in the minor leagues. And I would like to see him up from opening day if it is the fact that Harvey will not be on the team until the end of the season, if that last season. I'm concerned from the fact that, well, obviously, Alderson said that this injury is in no way end of his career potential, which that's expected. But I'm very, very concerned that he will not come back the same as he was this year. Look at Steven Strasburg, for example. I mean, he did have a complete tear, needed the surgery from the moment he got the injury, but he was a phenom too. I mean, if you look at the stats of Strasburg and Harvey, both in their first season, Strasburg was phenomenal. Harvey was better. Harvey had better overall stats in his first full season. And if you look at Strasburg now, he's not having a good season at all at the Washington Nationals. In no way is his season bad, but for what he put up in that first season, it's in no way good. And to see Harvey come back and do what Strasburg is doing now would be really disheartening. To witness what he did this season, and at some points, looked on a Miguel Cabrera standpoint from pitching. The way Miguel Cabrera has been dominating hitting this season, I can make a claim that Harvey had the same exact thing going for him, but on the mound. I mean, you look at a guy like Max Scherzer, who beat the Mets on Sunday, 19 wins, for Scherzer. 9 wins for Harvey. But Harvey's been 10 times better than Scherzer has this year. Scherzer does have the offense behind him. Harvey does not. Harvey does lead the league in no decisions, which is very disappointing. The Mets could be, again, potentially looking at their second straight 20-game winner after R.A. Dickey last season, but they couldn't score for Harvey. Leads the league in no decisions, and now he's hurt. For a Mets team that has just gone through the worst of the worst for the past 2 years regarding lows, there's 50 feet of crap than the Mets underneath it, if you want to talk about what the Mets have had to go through the last 2 seasons. And then Harvey gave us a glimpse of a potentially bright future, especially games that he was going to pitch, and now we might not have him. And as a Mets fan, that really, really hurts. It really does. Again, we're starting to see Zach Wheeler come into form. We're really starting to see him come his own pitcher in the majors, and I'm very interested to see how he's going to do in his first full season next season. But, you've learned. You've learned from Harvey. If this happens with Zach Wheeler too, oh my goodness. Every pitcher that the Mets have come across with has had injuries, and I can't really explain that. I don't know if that's the trainers, I don't know if that's the organization as a whole, or I don't know if they're not to blame at all, and it's just the pitchers. We'll start with Matt Harvey. Jonathan Neese has had his share of injuries. Henry Mejia is out for the rest of the season with an injury. Jeremy Hefner is going to get Tommy John surgery within the next couple of weeks. You can go back and back. Chris Benson was always hurt. John Maine has his share of injuries. Johan Santana is on the shelf right now for the season. Pedro Martinez was always hurt. Who's to blame for this? How many times can a pitcher get hurt and you not learn that this is going to be a reoccurring thing on this team? And again, I don't know if it's just the pitchers themselves. I don't know if the Mets are to blame, but, I'm really getting sick and tired of this. And I think a lot of Met fans out there can agree with me. I really don't have much more to say on that topic of Matt Harvey. I just hope that Harvey really doesn't need Tommy John surgery and he can come back the same, if not stronger. But only time will tell what's going to happen concerning Matt Harvey. So, enough talk about the New York Mets. Their season is over. A season that, with few bright spots, it's going to be forgotten very soon. So let's move on to the New York Giants. Especially with this Harvey going on, I'm excited for the Giants. With it being today, August 25th, we are now a little less than 2 weeks from opening day against the Dallas Cowboys. I've heard a lot about the New York Giants that I've looked into, and I've heard a lot of experts say that they expect the Giants to lose that home opener against the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football, prime time, September 8th, 8:30 start. I have to disagree with that. The Giants on paper are a much better team than the Dallas Cowboys are. And what we went through last season, I expect this team to come back hungrier than ever. I really do. And if the Giants perform the way they're built to perform, I would expect them to beat the Cowboys and beat a lot of other teams. I have high expectations for this Giants team. Justin Tuck was nowhere to be found when we look at the defense last season. I expect him to have a monster season this year. Cullen Jenkins, who the Giants picked up from the Philadelphia Eagles, has looked very good in preseason so far. I expect him to have a good season as well. And then you look at Jason Pierre-Paul, kind of the leader of that defense. Pierre-Paul was just taken off the physically unable to perform list, and he is going to begin to practice. It is not said if he is going to participate in the fourth and final preseason game against the New England Patriots, but he should be ready for that opening night against Dallas, and he will be a big factor in that game, especially coming off that injury. And then you look at Keith Rivers, his second year on the Giants. He had a great season last year. If he could continue that up, if he can continue what he did last season, I have no complaints with Keith Rivers. But then the only thing that concerns me a little bit for the Giants defense is the secondary. I mean, if you want to look at the pass rush, they did not have a good pass rush last season, but I do expect them to fix that this season. As I said, Tuck is going to have a good season. I can tell you that right now. And with Osi Umenyiora not on the team anymore, that definitely opens up a spot for Mathias Kiwanuka to have a big season, and I definitely expect him to do that. Mathias can now move to his natural position, and I expect him to be much better than he's been in recent seasons. He was another guy who was nowhere to be found last season, but I definitely expect him to make improvements this season. But then if we move back to the secondary, we have Prince Amukamara coming into his third NFL season, and he's going to have a bigger role than he's had in his first two seasons, and I definitely expect him to be a contributing factor. Last season, he made a lot of mistakes, but we did see some bright spots from Prince, and I definitely expect him to be a guy who can carry the workload for that secondary along with Antrell Roll. I can see these two guys having big seasons, and if they do, the Giants' secondary does run with these two guys. And then, before I even talk about the Stevie Brown injury, I want to talk about Corey Webster, who is getting up there in age. He's been a Giant for a long, long time now, and I think Giant fans are really, really getting sick of him last season. He was making mistakes, getting beat on every play. It felt like every time an opposing wide receiver made a catch, it was on Corey Webster. And the Giants did give Webster another chance, bringing him back this season and not releasing him. And I do respect that because he has been a Giant so long and has done many great things in New York. But I would keep Webster on a tight leash. If he is making mistakes throughout the first, second game, I'd put Jaron Hosley in there right away. I really would. You need to send a message to Webster from day one saying this is not your spot for the taking. This is your spot now, but if you can't hold it, you won't have it anymore. And with Stevie Brown out, the Giants are going to need good production from the rest of that secondary. Ryan Mundy is going to take over the spot of Stevie Brown, and I really don't know how good he's going to be. We haven't seen that much from him, but hopefully he will be able to at least keep pace with what Stevie Brown was able to do last season, maybe have an unexpected breakout season from Ryan Mundy. Former Giant Kenny Phillips, who was signed by the Philadelphia Eagles, has just been cut by them, and I've heard a lot of rumors. Will the Giants try and bring back Stevie Brown and throw him in Kenny Phillips? Re-sign Kenny Phillips and throw him in Stevie Brown's spot. And I don't think that would be a bad idea, especially because I think he would be more than willing to come to the Giants. But I have heard the Giants really aren't that interested in Kenny Phillips, and they're going to roll with what they have right now and at least see if those guys can get the job done. And then you do have Terrell Thomas, who isn't going to start this season, who was a amazing player in that secondary 2 years ago, but again, against the Jets on Saturday, did play his first game in 2 years. That knee injury kept him out for 2 years. And I think the Giants are doing a good job by slowly working his way back into the lineup. But once he gets back into that lineup, I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be able to contribute the way he did 2 years ago if that knee holds up and if he can stay healthy. I mean, other things to look for on the defense, Mark Herschlitz is not going to be the starting middle linebacker. Dan Connor won that job. So look for good production from Dan because Mark did do a good job last year and he did not win that spot. And then you have Adewale Ajoma. I don't know if you guys remember Ajoma. He had an amazing preseason last year and got hurt. And he's back this year. He's a third or fourth string guy, but I do expect him to be in there and contribute if they can. I mean, the Giants do have a pretty good defense. They re-signed Aaron Ross. They have Marcus Kuhn, who was great for them last season. Linval Joseph, I expect a good season from him. Spencer Pasinger, Sean Rogers. I expect all these guys to contribute. Tyler Sash, Will Hill when he comes off his suspension. If all these guys can play together and develop some chemistry that they really didn't have last season, I don't see any holes in this defense. I think this defense should be able to hold spots and really be able to stop offenses. And then if you look at the Giants' offense, I don't see any reason that they shouldn't be able to put up numbers that they were last season, if even better numbers. The offensive line has had their good amount of injuries, and I do see a couple problems up there, but we had problems with them last year as well, and that's why we went out in the draft and drafted Justin Puig. So I do expect that offensive line to be a little better. I mean, Eli will have the season that he normally has, coming into his 10th NFL season. Jeez, Eli has been around a while. Then you have Victor Cruz and Hakeem Nicks will both be healthy by opening day. Hopefully both of them can stay healthy. That's the only thing I'm concerned about with them. And then you have David Wilson and Andre Brown from the start as the running back duo. And if both of those players can share the workload equally and both do a nice job, I think the Giants will have a great running game. You saw in that Jet game, David Wilson, first play from scrimmage for the Giants offense, 84-yard touchdown run. Totally blowing away that Jets defense. I mean, that's not really saying much, but he did look good. And then you have Henry Hajnowski coming off injury. He will be the starting fullback. At the tight end position, you have Brandon Myers, who the Giants did sign from the Oakland Raiders. I think he will definitely be an upgrade from Martellus Bennett, who did not have the best of seasons last year. He moved on to the Chicago Bears. Best of luck to Martellus. And I can personally say that if these guys stay healthy, Victor Cruz, Hakeem Nicks, and Ruben Randall is one of the most dangerous wide receiving cores in the NFL. If you want to double team one of these guys, say opening day the Cowboys want to double team Hakeem Nicks, then you have Victor Cruz and Ruben Randall both being single covered, and that can be dangerous for both of them. So I think, again, if Cruz and especially Nicks can stay healthy, and Randall will be a much bigger factor coming into his second season, I think the Giants wide receivers will be very, very good. So just in these last 5 minutes of the New York Sports Show, I'm just going to run through the Giants schedule quick and give you my predictions. Opening night, they play the Dallas Cowboys. In Dallas, we don't lose in Dallas. Victory, 1-0. Then we come home for our home opener. Week 2, Denver Broncos, Manning Bowl round 3. Eli Manning has lost to his brother each and every time. That streak will continue. Giants will lose to the Denver Broncos, go to 1-1. Then we will go to the Panthers, absolutely dominate Cam Newton. We saw that last season. We will do that again, 2-1. We go to Kansas City, easy game, 3-1. Go to Philadelphia, no shot Michael Vick, no shot Chip Kelly, 4-1. We go to Chicago. Experts have the Bears beating us. the Bears are not beating us. We are the road warriors. We should go to Chicago on Thursday night football and be able to manhandle the Bears. We are a better overall team than Chicago, 5-1. Home against Minnesota, Monday night football. The Christian Ponder does not stand a chance against that Giant defense, 6-1. We go to Philadelphia. Philadelphia is always a tough place to play for us no matter what, and it's always rare the Giants sweep the Eagles, so I'm going to say the Eagles win this one, 6-2. We're home against Oakland. We'll beat the Raiders, 7-2. We come home against Green Bay. I do think it's going to be a good game. I think the Packers will pull it out, 7-3. We come home against Dallas. We're going to sweep Dallas this year, 8-3. We go to Washington on Sunday Night Football. We saw RG3 handle us pretty good last season, and by the time we see him, he'll be back and healthy. I say the Giants lose this game, so at that point we are 8-3. So then we go to Chargers. I don't see any reason why the Giants shouldn't win this game, 10-3. Home against Seattle, Russell Wilson, Seahawks, good team, Giants win, 11-3. To Detroit, 12-3. We win in Detroit. Go to Washington, 13. Home against Washington, 13-3. I know that seems like a pretty biased prediction. 13-3 is what I'm saying from the New York Giants right now, and I'm not going to take that back because the Giants will have a strong season this year, and they will beat the teams that they are supposed to beat. Don't get me wrong. Since Eli Manning has become the starter in 2005, the Giants have never had a losing record, and there's no reason to think that streak will end this year. The Giants caught a break with their schedule too. The Giants play 6 games against teams that made the playoffs in 2012, but 5 of those are at home, where the Giants finished 6-2 last season. And then we are good on the road, and we will be playing those bad teams on the road, so I don't see any reason why we shouldn't win those games. I mean, the only tough teams, again, who I said we play this year, are Denver and Green Bay, and I did predict both those teams beating us, but they will be close games, and we do have a shot to win those games. Don't get me wrong, but then the Giants are the Giants. Even if they do continue their inconsistency, you could see us losing 1 or 2 games that we should win. Maybe Oakland, Detroit. But I do see us going 12-4, 13-3, and definitely winning the NFC East. I don't think the NFC East has great competition this year. I think the Redskins will limit Robert Griffin's running, which will kill them. I think under a new coach that the Philadelphia Eagles will need to get adjusted to, and their offense won't really produce as much as Chip Kelly will like it to. He won't get that same offensive production that he had in Oregon. And then the Dallas Cowboys. Looking at the Cowboys, they'll be the same that they always are. They won't be horrible. They never are. But they won't be phenomenal, which they never are. I see the Cowboys definitely fighting for contention for that first or second wild card spot. And maybe the Redskins in that spot too. Maybe. Definitely not the Eagles. I don't know how far the Giants will go in the playoffs, but I can definitely see us getting to the third round, possibly the NFC Championship. It would be so much of a thrill if the Giants were able to get to the Super Bowl in our own stadium. The Giants do a lot of things that no team has ever done before, and no team has ever gone to the Super Bowl in our own stadium. So, you know what, New York? All in, baby. Let's make it happen. Let's do it. If the Giants can stay consistent, my final word on them, stay consistent, stay healthy, win the games that we should be winning, we will be a very good and very dangerous team this season, like we always are. And I am very excited for that season opener, September 8th, against the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. So that's all the time I have for today. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the New York Sports Show. I'm Jacob Seus. Everyone, I hope you have a pleasant afternoon.